Okay, good afternoon, coaches. Today we are having Coach Zipho Dlangalala, who's going to give us a share presentation with us around youth development, obviously using our maximized training or the maximal training of Professor Dimitru. I'm just trying to unmute Coach Zipho.
Thank you, Omar. Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning, everyone. I will, rather than making a presentation on youth football, I think I'll rather share a few things that things should always be important in our function as in our maximal approach to youth development, to youth football. Some of things are general, but they are also specifically applicable in our situation. First of all, is to say that in this short discussion we're going to have, with all your inputs, with the respecting that you know what you're doing, you know quite a lot in this game and this area, especially people that work with youth players, be it girls or boys, the game is the same. So I'm saying this is where players are prepared for life in their later years. So as a start, we should always be careful that, yes, it's a football environment, but it's an environment that we should make sure that all the time it prepares the young people for the future. It has to follow, obviously, different stages according to the natural development of a human being. That is important because when we play this game, we use our brains. So the development of the brain in a young person goes through these different stages. Those who are at school, those who went to school, but particularly those who are teaching at present moment who taught before, will appreciate more that the mind works at different stages in different ways. There's a time when children cannot multiply numbers, but they can add them. There's a time when children may not recognize that if you put this number and that number, you can get actually a new one. There's time that the brain is so undeveloped that if you put 2 and 3, for them, you still get 2 and 3. So the development of the brain as they grow from year to year, month to month, when they're younger, you can even say week to week. I'm talking babies. But we're talking youth players here, people that can play football, who can run, who have good balance, who are coordinated. So at that stage, yes, the brain is still developing. So we have to consider that and help them, work with them, develop them with that in mind. The key thing to all of us is that the player is the reason there is youth football. It is now no one else. It is the player that is the reason. And therefore, it requires that we should appreciate that and really respect it. I want to say also it is very important to attend to the players' needs as a result. So at youth level, teams do not matter. They actually count for nothing. I will give an example why I'm saying that. So the key thing is the individual player development. That is key. If I were to forget that, I will negotiate a wrong route, and the chances I will end up in a wrong destination. So it is very important to appreciate that, to commit yourself as a coach to that this level is about the player as an individual. I said I'll make an example. In our minds, we can keep this when we discuss, maybe later, asking questions and things like that, we can talk about it. There are countries that have done very well at international youth level. I'm talking specifically on the FIFA competitions, where every country has a chance to play. There are countries that have excelled certain moments, some consistently so, under 17, under 20, be it women, be it girls or boys. But there aren't any individual successes in later years. So you may want to ask the question, why, what happened? We will discuss that if there's time for that later, or maybe you ask questions around it. And that reminds me of a situation we had in the 1996 in South Africa, SAFA. We used to have inter-regional tournaments. It was an under-12 tournament, that time sponsored by one of the companies producing snacks. And there were 25 regions that time. I remember very well that the teams that contested the final, I think that between them 3 players in the selected squad. I might be wrong on the number 3, but there were very few. And very interesting, when we finished announcing that selected squad, the president of those 2 regions came flying to me as I was a convener of selectors in that under-12 tournament. They were very aggressive, wanting to know why only so few players were selected from their teams, yet they reached the final. What they did was out of order, but I embraced it because it gave me an opportunity to have a very brief crash course on talent selection and assessment. So I'm just making this point to emphasize that at youth level, it is the player. A team may progress in a competition to the last game, which is the final, but it does not necessarily mean it has good talent. There could be other things. I'm talking legal things, not illegal ones. There could be other things that have helped the team to win or to reach that point. And I want to say to coaches those who are in South Africa will know the player Lynch Pule. The boy was a 12-year-old at that time, and he went on to play in the professional leagues. I played for Ajax, Maritzburg, African Warriors, and Jomo Cosmos. I'm mentioning him because he was the player of the tournament in 1996 under 12. So I'm just making a point that his team, if I remember well, they did not even reach the last 4. But his outstanding talent, not so much the performance, but the talent, doing the things the way he did. And those who had the opportunity to see him play will attest to that. So I want to further say that if you can make comparison between football and a car, so youth development will be the side of a car where parts of a car are produced. They are engineered and produced to fit properly so that the car will move well. At the senior level, obviously it's a car. So, but that car can't run if the parts are not properly developed, specifications and everything like that. So I'm just giving that as an idea. You keep in your mind, and like I said, if you want to ask questions further, we can. So sometimes some of these parts are not properly engineered, and then the car starts running, then it's smoking or it's making extra noises or whatever the case. And then you have to keep on going to the mechanic or somewhere to fix it or to replace it. We see this a lot in senior football, where players require or lack certain things and you have to keep going back. If you are lucky, they listen. If not, it becomes hard when a car is already running, working, to find that the parts are not fitting well. So I just want us to also appreciate within our context that when we teach or when we coach young players at youth level, we are coaching a lot of skills, not just football. We are actually involved in life skills. So to you fellow coaches, if you are really young and you are a youth coach, my advice is to try and get somebody who is a bit senior in life, may not know much or anything at all about football, but to be with you so that somebody that is grown up in this world knows a few things that if you are younger, you may not know. And this is not saying you are not a good coach. This is saying you are a very good, qualified, maybe youth person to coach players. But because you are also not as experienced in life. You need somebody to back you up. I want to emphasize, it doesn't have to be someone who played football or who knows football. Depends on our area. Some of us work in a very small environment, in an amateur setup, very close in a small village. Even there are people that are old enough to be of good advice to us as we grow up. There's no way we can buy wisdom. It comes with time. And if you are younger, it's clear you can be the most intelligent person in this world, but you don't have the wisdom that older people have. So that is very important, so that when these players make it to, whether they make it to professional level or not, but life skills wise, they are well equipped to face life later. And I always say to youth coaches, you must treat every player that is in front of you as if they'll be the best player in the world. Meaning, we must give to our young players everything that we have. We can't keep anything away from them. So you take them as seriously as you will do if you were coaching. Let's say if you are an under 17 coach, you must coach those players in your environment as if you were coaching the national under 17 team, the best players in your country. If you treat them like that, even if they don't make it to the highest level, but they will treasure those moments. They will always look back and find joy in the time they spent with you. And they will even, and those who will be successful, of course, will also use those skills that you have shared with them. So there is no way doing it in that approach. There is no way anyone will lose. You as a coach will get all the accolades, maybe not from us, but definitely from the players that would have experienced we have gone through the experience under your tutelage. So it becomes very important that we do it that way. I know coaches here in this platform, we have no reason, we have no ambition to manage football associations. Maybe some of us have, but I'm addressing those who don't have, like me. However, we can always have an influence on how football competitions are structured so that they support what we are talking about today, so that they support the idea of creating those parts that will function and make the car run smoothly, longer, and with success. So we have to make sure that and influence people that needs to be influenced, to separate and completely pull out youth football from competition promotion football. Promotion and competition football is about the end result more than the process. We youth coaches are involved in the process that eventually will deliver the end results. When the games are played, I want to emphasize this point, when games are played, youth competitions, they are not matches. Even if it is an international competition, I'm talking club competitions specifically. Those who have an opportunity to take their youth teams around their countries, regions, continents, or even the world. Those are not matches to win, to lose. Those are games to test. They are like laboratory. In the laboratory, you take something there to test, to check, and to see what happens if this and that and this and that are together, so much of this and so much of that. I always say I think nobody will take anything to a laboratory if they knew the results, because that would be wasting your time. You should have more important things to do than to test something that you already know what it will give you. So as a result, I'm saying we're doing this work of helping young players develop their game. They are the important part. We take them from where they are to the higher level. So we are doing as we work. It's not winning, but working. So I'm saying if what we are doing is working, that work must always be improving the player. If you are too concerned about whether you are winning or losing, you actually have lost, because you lose sight of the developments, of the improvements, or any other part that the players are acquiring under you. So the work, you ask yourself, are they improvements? Do they enjoy? Is their confidence growing? Are they taking responsibility? Like I said, there is life as well, skills. But even on the field of play, if we work well with the young players, they develop a sense of responsibility. So as part of the general principle, and specifically on the talented players that most, if not all of you have, might be one, might be two, but there's talent there. I can assure you now, none of us will coach a team where there's zero talent. So you may take yourself and think, I'm not strong, I'm from this place, I'm from this background, my players are limited. I can assure you, they are talented. We need to find it and work with it and improve it. I would like to, as I said, I don't want to make it a presentation. So I would like us quickly to think about certain things in our minds, to work on certain aspects. When you ask questions on youth football, whatever I can help, I will. If I don't know the answer, I will be very clear that I don't have the answer. And if I know where you can find it, I will assist you so that way. But maybe before I allow us to interact further, let me read something here that was mentioned by one very experienced coach. He's about 82 years now, 83 maybe, born in 1937, you can imagine. He's still alive, he's a Spanish guy. His name is Laureano Ruiz Cuevedo. He has coached some teams, a lot of youth teams in Spain, but also some senior teams, like it's called Celta Vigo Racing Club, even Barcelona around 1976, 77. I'm not sure how many of us were around, but that's not important now. So he said, this is what he says, and I would like to share with all of us coaches. It's quite a long quotation, but I think it's worth thinking about as we go through this session we have this now. He says, I'm quoting him, let us say that you and I coach two teams with kids 10, 11, or 12 years old, and all are about equally good. So both my team and yours are equally good. You try to teach them to play good football, passing game with tactical basics, while I tell mine only to play long balls and try to shoot. I can assure you that at first, I will always win against you by using your mistakes, break a bad pass, and score. If, however, we continue with the same training methods during a 3-year period or more, you will most likely win every game against us. Your players will have learned how to play, while mine haven't. That is how easy it is, the youth football. Omar, I'll pause here. If I wanted to dominate the stage, I'll carry on, but I think we should all share, get each other's interactive, and communicate. This game is about the communication that we have at all levels. I hand it over to you, Omar. If you want me to carry on and people ask questions, I will hear from you. Let me stop now.
Thank you, Coach. No, it's just a question to Coach Zipho. You said at the beginning of when you're ending the presentation, as a coach, you spoke about playing the right way at an early age, then the 3-year cycle. Now, there is a point or something that usually happens when that happens, whereby your players lose confidence in the way that you want them to play because of these constant, maybe most of the time you usually losing these games. So how do you deal with that mentality of them not focusing on losing or winning, but just being able to play? Because for me, that's one of the things that kind of makes the kids uncomfortable to play because of those mistakes that you talk about when you're trying to build up or you're trying to create gaps in between, and then they lose the ball. And usually this happens a lot of the time. So when you're dealing with young players, how do you fix that in mentality, or how do you work around that mentality? Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much for, for the question. It is very important to us coaches, thank Ayola. It is important to all of us to appreciate the limitations that the players, young players have. As we say, they are young players, they will not understand life as we do. So our first responsibility is to engage them so that they understand what is it that they are doing. They are playing football and they have to enjoy playing football. They have to make football the time that they spend in a football field with you, or any time in a week, including maybe a match on a weekend, something like that. They, like I said, because it's a process, we need to be able to say, this is what we are doing today, and we are doing the other day and the other day. For us coaches, we are lucky that we coach kids that also go to school. Of course, at this point, with the pandemic hitting the world like this, there are a number of challenges. Maybe school is not one of the things they do, but generally, kids youth goes to school. And at school, they learn from in a year. In South Africa, from January to November or so. And each of these days, they don't get a report. In each one of these days, they don't pass a test. In each one of these days, they don't answer questions necessarily to be able to move anywhere except to stand up, maybe get an applause in the class or something like that. So we should be able to use that patience, that environment they're already used to, where there is no instant gratification, so to speak. But at the end of each year, you move from grade to grade with the intention to complete your school and then move on. So I'm saying we have to be creative in those aspects. I cannot say do this, do that, but you have to be creative and look for the moments where kids can get joy. The score or the log, if you're playing a youth league and they score and so on, will always be what it is. Maybe your team is not winning, they lose a few games in succession and so on. Turn that into tools to develop success in them. Because equally, there's a team in your league, under 15 example, that wins every game and always finish on top. But the players are not improving because they are always and forever using what they already know. The chances is that those who are not winning are looking to find solutions. In doing so, they're actually improving themselves and are getting better and better and better. That's why, before you know, the teams that were struggling at youth level produce players that are very high quality, and teams that dominated at youth level, not that don't produce, but the quality is not as good. So in my advice would be that. Secondly, which is not necessarily in our hands, but we can always influence, is to do everything so that at youth level, we don't have something called relegation. We don't have something called promotion of a team. At youth level, it's about players, individual players. So players are promoted either if you have youth under 15A, under 15B, maybe even C in your club. Then players can move between those divisions at the same age, at the same time. And a 15-year-old may play for under 19 because he or she is so much talented that they actually can do something at the higher level. I always say on that one, make sure that they are not overused there at the higher level, because even if they are really good physiologically and sometimes anatomically, they may still be fitting. They may still be unable to cope with the demands at the higher level. So those are my two inputs on your question, Ayola. And I want to say, because this is the case here in South Africa, one player, when they test MRI, I think, to test the age, the fusion of the bones, and so on. The player was tested at the CAF qualifier. It's a South African international at youth level. He was okay. I don't know the degrees they use here, fusion of bones between 3 and 7 or something like that. If it's 7, it's like it's closed up, so it shows a higher age and so on. I'm not looking up with the figures, but this boy went to the AFCON under 17 and he made the grade, which means he was the right age. But when he went to the FIFA tournament a few months later, 6 months, the results said that he's old, which means he has grown in these 6 months because we're all different. Now I'm giving just an example how things happen sometimes very haphazard at youth level, and they are not as consistent as we like. And those of us who have coached youth teams for over a season or more than that, you will appreciate how up and down the performances can be. So it's all part of growth. I don't know if you needed something more, I will hear from you. Thanks, Omar. Omar, it's up to you if there's someone with a question. I see Percy there.
Yes, hi coaches. I just want to put an emphasis on what Coach Zipho was saying. Sometimes we are the ones who defeat the kids because what you cultivate is what they will see as important. So on the lower age, if you're only cultivating the winning thing without the development, then the kids becomes possessed with the winning. And sometimes you see that when you play with teams that the coaches want to win at all costs, and you can see that then they don't care much about the development. They want to come and win the game and go. But if you've got goals set for the kids to say, look, if you can be able to do this and that, if you are trying to play possession football, you said if you can pass this and this and develop, then they know that inside the play, you are encouraging them to do something and you're telling them that they did well. And then when it comes to the winning part becomes like a bonus, but they are already been encouraged to do something. It's not just you are sitting here and thinking, then it's not about winning, because sometimes we do that only when we're losing. But you have to have a program that support your ideologies and how you want to develop the kids and what you want to achieve. I was watching a game when one kid do a shibobo and everybody is very happy, but he lost the ball. And I'm thinking, whatever they're cultivating, they're saying skills that are not actually helping you and the team is fine, but is that what we are trying to tell the kids? So we have to know first, what have we planted, what goals have we set for the kids, so that when we're achieving it, we shouldn't be surprised. Thank you.
Thank you, Percy. On that score, for example, coaches, as we share this, the reason I'm starting this way, when later we go to specifics, when I say later, I'm not saying later on this session, in later sessions to come, we can go to specifics, but we need to have, should I say, principles that govern or that we observe, so that when practically we're looking at improving a player, we actually are guided by these principles that will help us in our countries, different regions, to produce or to provide an opportunity for those really talented kids to move up. I'll pose this question, not that I want anyone to answer directly, but I'm asking how many of us who coach young kids, 12 years, 13, 11, 15 maybe, do you ever tell the player or show the player what is the behavior of the ball? When you put your foot on this part, what happens to the ball? When you put your foot this way, what is the effect, that touch, that moment, that angle, foot and the ball, that contact that a kid makes with the ball? how many times, how many of us do we really help the player to understand the ball? Forget about the passing and juggling and shibobo and scoring. All these things are a result of contact with the ball. But how many times do we say, this is how you contact the ball to get a particular outcome? If you do it this way, and so on. I must say, coaches here, with all respect, I've been to some, I've been exposed to some of the senior players in my work, sometimes at very top level, very big environments or clubs. And I found it strange that there are players who are supposed to score goals, but who do not know exactly, as the ball is a round spheric object, where do you hit it to get maximum speed? They do not know where you make the contact with the ball. Forget about the foot or head. On the ball itself as an object, because it's made to fly, to move, should I say. It's made to move, and it can move at maximum speed or move at any speed below that. And when it's at zero until something interferes with its stationary position. So if you have a professional player who does not know where you make contact with the ball to get maximum speed, to make contact with the ball to get maximum height, to make contact with the ball to make maximum spin and things like that, or maximum low altitude, which means on the ground, then you already have a few problems to deal with, and maybe at the senior level, you just will appreciate the problems, solutions may never come. So our responsibility, and we have an opportunity as youth coaches to do those things and give them the opportunity.
Yeah, we have Coach Thabo Senong. Good afternoon, Coach, and welcome to our platform. Anything from your side, Coach? Any contribution, any reflection on the views that has been expressed, Coach Thabo?
Very good afternoon, coaches.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for the welcome. Thanks for the welcome, Coach Omar, and hi everyone. I'm in Lesotho at the moment. I can see everyone is looking well, and Coach Zipho, thanks for the session. We are enjoying, we are learning, and what you're talking about, it's more or less what I also believe in, because I'm also involved in youth development in Lesotho, supporting our under 17 coach and also supporting our under 20 coach. And I fully agree with you that while we're developing the young ones, gentlemen, it's very important that we focus on the process as opposed to focusing on the instant result, because what we require from the coaches, it's a clear style of play. Can they be loyal to how we want to play as Basotho in relation to the trends of the game, in relation to global football, because we're not playing football inside a vacuum. We're playing football against different oppositions, you know. So it's important that we develop our boys with confidence, of not being scared of the ball, of also trying to build from the back, because Basotho, it's a culture that loves ball possession. They love scoring goals. They love attacking football. So whatever that we do in relation to the modern trends of the game, it's always important that we don't take what they have as a culture, what they have as a nation, because they are naturally technical, naturally creative, and naturally artistic, you know, as people. Some similarities like South Africans, you know, some similarities like even maybe, you know, Spanish players sometimes. Not very big physically, small, but very mobile, creative, deceptive. So it is our job to make sure that we don't put the coaches under pressure to get results, because that will. Thank you very much, Coach Omar. As I said before, Coach, closing, my feeling is also what Coach Zipho is stressing, that as youth coaches, very important to focus on the process being the individual development of the players, the technical progress of the players, and a clear way of playing, to the team, and a clear way of playing to the players. Because if we rush them to compete, we end up losing special talents, because some of the important requirements for special talent or exceptional players, its attributes such as game intelligence, technical ability. But if we put results before the process of development, as coaches, we end up prioritizing on focusing only on players with physical attributes such as speed, power, strength, as a sign of players that will make it in top football, while neglecting the small ones that are slowly growing. So if we have a process-centered development program, it allows us to have the patience and the systematic plan to encourage even the small ones physically to grow and learn football with a lot of enjoyment, so that they can become top footballers in the future. Yeah, I think that's a bit from my side, and also maybe I would love to take it back to the coaches and also allow Coach Zipho to continue. I thank you, Coach Omar.
Well, thank you very much, Coach Thabo there. You must be careful these days. I heard you saying, gentlemen, I have ladies here too, but on your behalf, I will apologize. Before I respond, Coach Sudesh asked me to send his apology. He has another Zoom meeting now at 5 o'clock, so he needs to prepare to go there. On what Coach Thabo said, there's a number of very good points that have been made there. And as we always say, we always want to believe that every human being has a chance, can be given, given the opportunity, they may succeed, they have the opportunity to succeed. So if you are tall or small or short, if you are big or small and so on, that's why there's so many different types of sports. And even in our sport, football, there's so many different types of roles and ways of doing what everyone is doing to play a game at the senior level of 11 players on each side. Youth level, we can always adjust accordingly. But I want to stress the point that Coach Thabo made, to say, we all know, and I think we should always think this way, that to cut down a tree, you need an axe to cut down a tree. But I can assure you in this meeting now that none of us will cut their hair with an axe. Otherwise, there will be more than a hair that will be cut there. So to cut the hair, whether on the head, on the face, or anywhere else, normally it's a razor or something smaller that will do just that. So if you have a player who is small in the body, then you use that player. I'm just saying that player has a role to play, because it's not always trees that must be cut. Sometimes it's very small items, peeling a carrot or a potato, or something even smaller than that. So everyone has a role to play. It's an opportunity for us to provide the moments where each quality is required and each quality can excel. So I'm just saying it as part of that. So we have a responsibility, coaches, a very, very serious responsibility to develop, to create conditions for our young players to excel. And I'm saying one of the things, especially in the region where players are technically talented, the coordination is top, the balance is exceptional, they are agile. The smaller this playing area, the better for them. I will say this all the time. I think even if our under 15s in Southern Africa, I'm including everyone here because I know the conditions very well. It could be same in Southern Asia, but in this zone, even 15-year-olds enjoy playing smaller areas, it doesn't mean that they won't make it in 11-a-side game. If anyone ever thought about that, I'll give you an assurance that Ronaldo Luiz, the top Brazilian striker, was selected not from the normal 11-a-side, and he was before he went to the club and then to the World Cup in 1994. Before that, Ronaldo played for only one club, 11 against 11. And that happened to him when he was 16 and a few months in his life ever. He had not played 11-a-side game until then, to show that the small-sided games have a huge value in producing the best talent that you can think of. So for him, it started around that age when I should think if he was South African, he will already have an ID and only start playing 11-a-side at that time. But we all know what he achieved later, so I won't explain that. But I'm just emphasizing the point here that we have to focus on the process and the outcomes. The positive outcomes will always be there. We have to be strong, we have to be learned, we have to educate ourselves, make the world understand that youth football is about the process. If, unfortunately, you are in an environment where that is not acceptable, then leave that environment and find an environment where this set of rules is respected and you will be successful. I'll give you one example, coaches. I wouldn't like to make this, but to make a point, that team you were talking about 2 weeks ago, that was based in Potchefstroom, people knew it as Tawana. Those boys played as an under 19-20, if you like. At that time, it was called the Vodacom League. Today is sponsored by APC Motsepe, that level. And I remember in one game in Freiburg, it was a Friday evening, we played and won a game, and everyone laughs when I say we won the game 2-2. Because we played an opponent, we scored 2 goals, they never scored, but the referee made us go to the halfway line to restart the ball that did not go into the goals. So, on the second goal like that, it had hit the side netting from a free kick. The players wanted to go to him. I went inside the field and called them together during a game. I did something wrong. I felt I had to do it. I called all of them. I said, young man, you are here to prepare yourself for the future. You are not here to win this game. Let us play this game to the end. What end, I don't know. I don't care. What I care is you and your future. I told them like this straight. If those boys, if you know them, you can ask them. I said, those of you who want to win this game, leave the field. Those of you who want to win, want to progress to the future, stay here and play this game to the end. And we played the game to the end. Like I said, we won the game 2-2. So I don't know what happened to the players of that team. I don't know what happened to those match officials. All I know is that those boys that I was with there went on to play at high level. They're still playing at a very high level, some of them.
Thank you, Coach. I've also, from my side, is always in the Western Cape, and especially in the peninsula in Cape Town, we have this phenomenon where at a very young grassroots age, under 8, 10, and 12, and then from under 14 upwards, the football that coaches play or allow their players to play is very different from the small-sided, right? So there would be amazing grassroots clubs from 8 to 12 years old. But the moment they start going into their puberty and their young adolescence, then it's a win at all costs, it's long ball, and then you'll find that those players no longer cope with what is required from them making that transition from the small-sided to the 11-a-side. You'll find that those early developers, the bigger players, they can no longer cope with the constant instructions that is being shouted at them because of their puberty and their young adolescence. They want to make independent decisions. And what happens is there's a conflict between the coach and the player, and then they are lost to the game, to all the antisocial behavior that we find in our communities. Because of the constant shouting of instructions. But when they were younger, they were allowed to make the decisions, they were allowed to enjoy and develop in a natural way. But the moment they are in their puberty or in the young teens and the young adolescents, then there's a conflict between them and the coach wanting to win at all costs. Can you maybe elaborate on that phenomenon for us, Coach Zipho?
Thank you, Omar. It's a mindset that we need to work and reverse. I'm saying reverse because I don't think we started there. I think some things happened and interfered with us, and this is why we are where we are now. If there was anything, people say you must always look forward. Yeah, this one we have to go forward so that we go back. The important part here is, I say to people when we talk on a face-to-face, it's like now I'm in front of a computer here, call it a laptop, and if we are typing, like the people that help in admin, especially PAs or secretaries or someone like that, maybe they are used to it. But for most of us, if you are writing a letter or typing or even texting, and someone came right behind your head, whether they are a boss, your partner, wife, husband, a child, anyone, especially in authority. If it's someone you like your son or something, your daughter, it may not be such a big deal. But if it's someone with authority over you, and they come on top of you when you're trying to write a message or you're typing or you're studying, it puts so much pressure on you. It's even worse. This is my experience. I'm not sure about us. It's even worse if what you are writing here is part of the work that has put you together. Let me make an example. Here is Omar. He's an assistant coach to Coach Thabo Senong and in Likwena. They are coaching the national team of Lesotho. So Coach Thabo tells Omar, write this to the FA president or something. This is what we need. And so while he's writing, then Coach Thabo comes on top of his head. Even if he doesn't say anything, that puts a lot of pressure. Not that you can't type anymore, not that you can't write the letter anymore. It's just emotional and psychological pressure. And coaches, that is the pressure we put when players are playing and we keep on shouting. We are talking youth here. If someone says, what about senior? It's the same, but it's a different method there. But at youth level, that's what you do. Can you coach the players at youth level? Yes. You call the player, you talk to the player, you don't shout. I even wonder if really what we say is instructions. Because if we start to instruct, then we are creating a manual. I always say to myself, for me, I've seen football until today, 2020. And the football I saw in 2010, I don't want to see again. The football I saw in 2015, I know. The football I'm seeing now, I appreciate. But I want to see something new. Now, if there's going to be something new, coaches, it means it must come from someone, not us. We must create conditions. Because if we tell the players to do what we know is what we have seen. And what we have seen cannot give us something new. So players must come with new ideas and bring something that we didn't have. If we instruct our kids, when I was young, there was a typewriter. Yeah. Some of you may not know it. Things developed, like today we have we have these computers and all that. There was a time it was called something called the stiffy disk, went on to CDs, went on to USBs, flash. Now there's something on Bluetooth, so you can take information from one gadget to another without any contact, no wire, nothing. Today we're talking here at this platform. I don't even know people in this that I'm talking to where they are. You might be in hospital, you might be in prison, you might be in your house. It's none of my business actually, but I'm just giving an example that there was a time when you could not communicate with people when they are in their own environment, not at all. So, but people with new ideas came with this. I don't want to mention all the things that we have, like your WhatsApp, your Facebook and all that. If we wanted in technology, if we wanted the kids to learn and do what we teachers give them, we will not have these new developments. In football, it's not different. We must create conditions, give a strong base for kids to use our base to jump higher than us and produce performances that we never imagined. Some things that we can, if we like to take credit, Omar, we can take credit and say, I coached them there. I always laugh when a coach says, no, I knew. When you make a substitution and you say, I knew. Those of us listening know that you are telling your employers or people you want to impress, you don't know anything in a game until it happens. You may have a possibility to do something, but to say I knew is very strange, because who knew that we won't be playing football now? We didn't know. We don't even know if we start, we will finish. But we will start because we believe and we are passionate and we are preparing to start. But whether we'll finish, we don't know. So, yes, what you're asking, our coaches as a collective platform like this and our organizations where we are, let's try and influence the organization of football at youth level to suit the process. In South Africa, I don't want to get in that area, but we have a serious challenge where we have fused youth and competition, and we are not progressing in competitions, we are not progressing in youth, because we fuse two things that don't match. We're taking the learner driver to a driving test without driving lessons, and they crash all the time.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. Sorry, I live in a place where the Wi-Fi is not reliable. Sorry, I've cut off. I just want to say, Zippo, thank you very much. As you said in the beginning, the most important thing in coaching is the different stages of development, right? And I think that is where it all starts. That is where I think personally the mistakes have been made. Where coaches are not coaching to a philosophy or not coaching to a plan. With the result, the child, in the end, he doesn't go to the correct stage of development, and that's where our problem lies. And I also think that it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Right? We as coaches have to be innovative. We have to break frontiers, and we have to be. The most important thing, my philosophy in coaching is simple as this: I will guarantee you that I'll make your child a better person. Whether he becomes a footballer or not, that's entirely left unto him. But he will get the correct. Now that is where most people fail to understand. That is where, I've been coaching for over 40 years, I think, coaching children. And that is the mistake we made earlier. And that's why we've corrected ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with a coach saying, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with a coach saying, I don't know. A youth, a child is so important that we don't realize what we're dealing with. And a coach must be a responsible person. He has to be responsible. He has to be accountable. He has to be accountable. And you have to know the child before you can coach the child. You have to know how he thinks. You have to know how he learns. But that's what we have to learn first. You cannot coach somebody you don't know about. Whether he eats, he never eat, where he comes from, what's his situation. And over the years, you realize that these are the things that we've been missing. Right. And also, the small-sided games, we've been talking about this from 1980s, I think. but all we do is just talk. As coaches, if we stand up and say we won't play youth football 11v11, if we all stand together. But the biggest problem is we are people who are all different and we don't want to come together, but we are too quick. We are too quick to say things, but when you come to stand together, that's where the problem. That is my belief why we are suffering in this country. We have countries, I mean, I coach in India, I spend most of my time in India these days, and India, we're having junior tournaments now throughout the country. We should have junior tournaments, so we had under 17 national, we had tournaments, but we don't even have local junior tournaments, junior leagues. We used to have all of it before. What happened? I mean, the younger coaches should make sure you have to start holding people accountable. We have to start holding people accountable. Yeah. We can't just accept anything that we have. That is the problem we have. We become a nation of acceptors. Yeah. So that is my 2 cents worth for today. Or for now. And once again, Zipho, thank you very much. It's been a very informative so far.
Thank you, Coach Ronnie. Coach Zipho.
Thank you, Coach Ronnie, thank you for that. I'm sorry that sometimes you get cut off there. You better make a plan because that's the capital of my kingdom. So we need to be in contact with you all the time there.
Yeah.
But on the serious note on what you made, the points you made, very credible. I'm a bit surprised, but I remember now your age. You said the coach for 40 years, so if you still talk about 2 cents, some people don't even know what is 2 cents. The key thing, which again is not within our scope. However, we can always try and do. The key thing Coach Ronnie put across is it's been a result of the collapse of club football. When clubs collapsed, youth suffered the most because in a setup where we have teams and no clubs, you end up having an under 15 that is just an under 15 is hanging out there. You have an under 13 that is not connected to anything, and under 17, and I'm saying this with all respect because some people are trying hard, very hard to even have that. So it is appreciated that there are people who put that effort to have something like that. Otherwise, even those kids I'm mentioning now will have nowhere to play football. Unfortunately, our communities, because Ronnie addressed this matter in a South African way, we have in the audience people that are not from South Africa or who are not in South Africa at the moment. So we have to influence the re-establishment. As I said earlier, we were right, then we went wrong. So we know where to go, we know what was right. So with the clubs, even unfortunately, some of big brands in the country do not have anything below what you see or what you know. So it becomes a huge challenge to have youth football that is not attached, because even to talk about to a player in a small area, a small town, a small village, even a township, to say, look, this is what we do, so that in the future you are there. They can't connect because there is no connection. For them, there is no connection. For us, adults, especially those who were there when these things existed, we know what we're talking about. But in their minds, they can't connect. So it then promotes and encourages even the games where, I would say gambling games or stake games, where I take my under 17, Coach Ronnie's under 17, and we put 500 rand and we play. This is not football. This is gambling. We are using these kids to make money. For who? Don't ask me. I don't know how it works, but I know games like that are played by youth. And only in countries like us, where this is allowed, are we going to have a team in the national team that will continuously regress. Before we know, will be not even make the top 100 in FIFA. Because those kids that are playing gambling now, that culture will not assist them to play league football in the future. It's a completely different culture, league, and those games where you win today, you get something immediately. You are teaching also new habits. I'm not blaming anyone about this. We're also creating instant gratification philosophy in the kids. They think that when you play, you get something. If you win, you get something. If you don't win, you get nothing. So they will develop with that. And when a coach who is in a league wants them to come and play there, when Thabo coaches an NFD or PSL team in South Africa, Coach Thabo, he gets a player like that from you. The player is always absconding. He doesn't attend training full week because he's not used to preparing for the whole week to play once. His order in his mind and body is to prepare once and play 3-4 games a weekend. So now comes the league man, this big coach called so-and-so from Club X, and he tells him to come 4 times to training and even sit on the bench on Sunday and must still come the next week and train. The player says no, the mind says no, football is not like this. Football, you train once or twice, you do road work, you play 3 or 4 games over the weekend, and you make some money. So it's a huge challenge. It's not our responsibility, but I think we can help to influence it so that we go back to what we used to have. So people in this forum, that some I know, if I don't mention your name, it's not because I don't like you. People like Coach Craig Mashilo, president of SAFCA, when he played, I think, and I'm sure, I've never asked him, I'm sure he played for Juvenile, Mamelodi United, before he was promoted. Maybe he played for D or C or B. If you were very talented, you could have jumped from D to A, even on the bench. Some of us, some in this forum, played earlier for B team, later was called reserve. You played for C team at 12 o'clock, and you were on the bench 3 o'clock for the first team, so that if there was an emergency, you could jump in because you were so good. Sometimes you will be selected on the very same day. So there was a link between a young player and the first team player through the club structure. Where there are still clubs, this is very clear and is working very well, except that the training concept might not be good, but structurally it's very important. So I will want us in our own small way, or some of you us are very influential, to try and influence the order so that the youth football really thrives. If we say, coaches, youth is the future, it's not tomorrow. The youth is the future now. So if now things are wrong, then we say the future will be wrong. We can't change that equation. It remains like that. So we can change it by making the right things now. Then we are saying youth is the future, yes. What type of future, good or bad? So if we are not doing the right things now, and we are not being assisted to do the right things, then the future is bleak. Make no mistake, those teams that are far, far out of the recognizable FIFA rankings, I'm talking about big nations there. Of course, there are small nations because of population. Their pool is very thin and limited. They will always struggle. Not that they must fail, but they will always be behind. There are people like us, 50 plus million. We should never, never be outside the top 30 of FIFA with such a huge pool. If Uruguay coaches with 3.5 million people are forever in the top 15, sometimes 10 for years, then something is wrong with us. We can produce here more than 10 Uruguays in population numbers. So we need to do something very serious. And I'm saying to us youth coaches, as a principle, let's get the right principles and let's produce. If you can, in your environment, have one player every, say, I know it doesn't look good, every 5 years, have one player professional from where you are. Imagine how many you are in this forum. Only today, we're about 33 or so. if half of us were coaching, not all of us are coaches because others are other professions. If only half of us were coaching, we'll have 15 players in Bafana Bafana. Just from this talk that we have now, I'm saying if we did that and only half of us did it continuously for 5 years, and each one of us after 5 years produce one solid player, we will have 15 top players. So imagine how many of us are around this country, in our countries where we come from. So we can't fail if we do it right. Omar, you manage the time and other things. Sometimes we just go on and on. So I don't want us to be cut because this is the last session.
Okay. Thank you, Coach Zipho, and all the other coaches. Coach Thabo Senong, thank you for your presence, Coach. Our respected national coach, is good to know your sentiments around youth development, and that we are on the same page, and we can always network with Coach Thabo, you know, in terms of guidance and sharing our views and input when it comes to youth development. Thank you very much, coaches. Coach Percy, for your contribution. Coach Ronnie, thank you. It's always good that more and more people feel more comfortable in expressing themselves about their views and what they are doing, and the clarification that's coming from senior coaches like Coach Zipho, Greg Mashilo, Coach Sudes, Coach Thabo that's been with us today, Coach David Motwane that was with us a couple of weeks as well. So thank you very much for all your contributions. The ball is entirely in our court to make that difference. Some of us are very fortunate that we have structured youth football with all the facilities. I'm one of those. We are very fortunate and blessed. There is financial contribution towards equipment and facilities. Others are less fortunate. The inequalities, I think COVID-19 lockdown has really exposed major inequalities in our society, from education, from access to food, accommodation, education, sports facilities as well. We need to address it. We need to prepare ourselves to empower, to network, to share information, to share expertise post-COVID-19, so that we can get everybody to a place where we can deliver that product that Coach Zipho is referring to for our national teams, because ultimately that is our job as a coach, to produce talent for national representation. And with that, thank you very much. I greet you on behalf of our coaching group. Please stay safe, protect yourself, and until we reconvene again, we will provide more information about our Zoom sessions going forward. But thank you for your contribution and for your commitment to our football. Coach Zipho?
Yeah, just a parting shot from me, coaches, because the man of the house, Omar Davids, will close the shop. Like I realized that was about to close, so I have to jump in before the door is closed. If there's any advice, coaches, at our youth level that I can leave for this session, is as much as you can. If there was anything that if any time you get stuck or whatever the case, just get the kids organized and let them play. Not level 11, of course. Small games, if you have more equipment, better for you. But even if you don't have equipment, you can always find a creative way. Let the kids play and let them know as a coach that you expect to see something new, so that you give them the challenge to think harder, to think deeper, to create something new. Tell them what you've seen you don't want to see all the time. It's not the only thing you want to see. You also want to see something new. When the current players that are dominating well stage, before they came, some other players were doing that. And they are not doing what the previous players did. They're doing their own thing, but they're taking all of our attention, and we know them by name. So encourage your kids to do the same. Boys or girls, it doesn't matter. They have something special. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to share with you. I'm out.